Hello students, in today's session I am going to discuss water resources, which is the second part of your second unit of environmental studies. So basically we know that about 70% of the surface of earth is covered with water, while the rest 30% is covered by land. So in this session I am going to discuss the sources of water, the uses and overexploitation of surface and underground water, floods, droughts, conflicts over water, and dams, its benefits and problems. Now, coming over to the surface of water, water के कितने तरह के sources होते हैं? All the sources of water, they can basically be classified or divided into two parts. One is surface water, other one is अंडरग्राउंड वाटर. सो एक तो सरफेस वाटर होता है और दूसरा अंडरग्राउंड वाटर होता है. जो सरफेस में वाटर अवेलेबल होता है उसको हम लोग सरफेस वाटर कहते हैं. जो मिट्टी के अंदर रहते हैं उसको हम लोग अंडरग्राउंड वाटर कहते हैं. नाउ दिस सरफेस वाटर, it is again classified into four types. One is rain water, river water, third one is lake water, and fourth one is sea water. Rain water is the purest form of natural water. It does not contain any dissolved minerals. Next is river water. So river, it is formed due to the melting of glaciers. It is also formed during rainy season when a number of streams of water they meet together, and river water contains a large percentage of dissolved minerals like sodium chloride, potassium chloride, sodium iodide, sodium carbonate, potassium carbonate, and calcium bicarbonate, magnesium bicarbonate, calcium chloride, etc. Lake water, it is a confined area where water gets stored during rainy season. It may be a natural basin. Basically, lake water, it contains very less percentage of dissolved minerals but contains high percentage of organic matters. During natural calamities like flood, water flows into lake. It carries dead bodies of animals. It carries weak trees which get decomposed and finally converted into organic matters. Sea water, it is the impurest form of natural water. It contains high percentage of dissolved minerals. It contains about 3.5% of dissolved minerals, out of which 2.6% is only NaCl or sodium chloride. Therefore, the taste of sea water is salty. Next is underground water. It is again classified. It is generally seen in mountainous area. During rainy season, water gets stored in some natural basins. A part of this stored water percolates into the surface of earth. During its downward journey, when it comes across a hard rock, it cannot penetrate further and emerges out in some weak areas as spring water. It is one of the clearer form of natural water, and it also contains a high percentage of dissolved minerals. Next is your well water. Well water, it is man-made. It is obtained by digging to a high depth on the surface of earth. It contains rather constant composition of dissolved minerals. उसमें जितना mineral होता है बस उतना ही रहता है ज़्यादातर. It also contains some organic matters. Next portion is world water distribution. Water resources are used for agricultural, industrial, domestic, recreational and environmental activities. Majority of the uses require fresh water. However, about 98% of water found on the earth is salt water and only 2% is fresh water. A little over two-thirds of the available fresh water is frozen in glaciers and polar ice caps. The remaining fresh water is found mainly as underground water, and a negligible portion of it is present on the ground or in the air. Next one is your uses and overexploitation of surface water. All the available forms of water on the surface of earth has various uses, and we can classify them into various categories. First one is agricultural use. Agriculture accounts for 69% of all water consumption. Basically, in agricultural economy like India, agriculture therefore is the largest consumer of the earth's available fresh water. By 2050, the global water demand of agriculture is estimated to increase by a further 19% due to irrigational needs. Industrial use. Worldwide, we can see the industry accounts for 19% of total consumption. It is used as a raw material like coolant. It is also used as a solvent, a transport agent, and as a source of energy like hydroelectricity energy. Then domestic use. Of all water consumption in the world, domestic use accounts for about 12%. It includes drinking, cleaning, personal hygiene, gardening, cooking, washing of clothes, dishes, vehicles, etc. The next vast use of surface water is used for hydropower generation. It accounts for about 16% of total electricity generation globally. Electricity produced from water is hydropower. Hydropower is the leading renewable source of electricity in the world. There are many opportunities for hydropower development throughout the world. Today, the leading hydropower generating countries are China, the United States, Brazil, Canada, India, Russia. Water is also used for navigation and recreation purpose. Navigable waterways are defined as water courses that have been or may be used for transport of interstate or foreign commerce. Agricultural and commercial goods are moved on water on a large scale in a number of regions in the world. Water is also used for recreational purposes such as boating, swimming, and sporting activities. These uses affect the quality of water and pollute it. Coming over to the next part of this chapter, overutilization of surface and groundwater. So, water scarcity has become a burning global issue. The United Nations has held several conventions on water in recent decades. Continuous overutilization of surface and groundwater has led to virtual water scarcity in the world today. The depleting sources for high growth in human population over the centuries and increased man-induced water pollution across the world have created unforeseen water scarcity around the globe. As a result, there has been continuous overutilization of the existing water sources due to mammoth growth in the world population. Groundwater is the major source of water in many parts of the world. However, this has been continuous depletion of this source due to its overexploitation by rising human population and the rapid rise in industrialization and urbanization in modern times. The next portion is flood. Flood is a well-known natural hazard in the world. It occurs due to excess in water flow. The amount of rainfall received by an area varies from one place to another depending on the location of the place. In some places it rains almost throughout the year, whereas in other places it might rain for only few days. India records most of its rainfall in the monsoon season. Heavy rains lead to rise in the water level of rivers, seas and oceans. Water gets accumulated in the local areas which result in floods. Flood bring in extensive damage to crops, domestic animals, property and human life. During floods, many animals get carried away by the force of water and eventually they die. The next important part of this chapter is drought. Droughts set in when a particular region goes without rain for a long period of time. In the meantime, the soil will continuously lose groundwater by the process of evaporation and transpiration. Since this water is not brought back to earth in the form of rains, the soil becomes very dry. The level of water in the ponds and rivers goes down, and in some cases water bodies get dried off completely. Groundwater becomes scarce and this leads to droughts. In drought conditions, it is very difficult to get food and fodder for the survival. Life gets difficult and many animals perish in such. The next very important part of this chapter is conflicts over water. You can see here water flows from one nation to another or even from one state to another. Now you can see here Godavari Nadi. It flows between Maharashtra and Telangana. Similarly, Mahanadi rivers, it flows in Odisha as well as in Chhattisgarh. You can look at this one, Kaveri, river Kaveri, it flows between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So water conflicts is a term which describes a conflict between countries, states or groups over the rights to access water resources. The United Nations recognizes that water disputes result from opposing interests of water users, public or private. A wide range of water conflicts appear throughout history, though rarely are traditional wars waged over water alone. Instead, water has historically been a source of tension and a factor in conflicts that starts for other regions. However, water conflicts arise for several reasons, including territorial disputes, a fight for resources, and strategic advantage. A comprehensive online database of water-related conflicts, the Water Conflict Chronology, has been developed by the Pacific Institute. This database lists violence over water going back nearly 6,000 years. Now let us discuss about some case studies of conflicts over water. First one is the conflicts between India and Bangladesh. India plans to link major rivers flowing from Himalayas and direct them to the drought-prone South India. But the Bangladesh government estimate that even 10 to 20% reduction of water flows to their country will dry out large areas for most of the years. It will adversely affect Bangladeshi farmers. They plan to raise this issue in the United Nations Forum and request to frame laws. The next case study on conflicts over water is between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. As you can see in this particular map, that the river Kaveri is flowing from Karnataka to Tamil Nadu. So it is flowing in between two states of India, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. There was widespread violence when Karnataka rejected an interim order handed down by the Kaveri water tribunals set up by the Indian Supreme Court to settle decades of water dispute between the two states over irrigation rights to the Kaveri river water. The next case study is between Odisha and Chhattisgarh government. You can see in this map the river Mahanadi is flowing from Chhattisgarh entering into Odisha. There has been protest in Odisha over the sharing of water from the river Mahanadi because flow of water in the upstream river is controlled by Chhattisgarh. Well, students, the next part is the benefits of construction of dams. Dams provide a range of economic, environmental and social benefits including recreation, flood control, water supply, hydroelectric power generation, waste management, river navigation and wildlife habitat. You can see in this database about 38.4% of dam water is used for recreation purpose, about 17.7% is used for flood control, about 17.1% is used for fire and farm ponds, for navigation purpose 0.4%, for hydroelectric power generation 2.9% of dam water is used, and for debris control 0.4%, and for irrigation only 11% of dam water is used. Recreation. Dams provide prime recreational facilities throughout the United States. Boating, camping, picnic areas and boat launch facilities are all supported by dams. Second one, the benefit of construction of dam is flood control. For centuries, people have built dams to help control devastating floods. Another important benefits of construction of dam is water storage. Dams create reservoirs throughout the United States that supply water for many uses, including industrial, municipal, and agricultural use. Again, irrigation is another important benefit of construction of dam. 10% of American cropland is irrigated using water stored behind dams. Thousands of jobs are tied to producing crops grown with irrigated water. So the next important benefit of construction of dam is electrical generation. Construction of hydroelectricity power plant. The United States is one of the largest producer of hydropower in the world. Second to it is Canada. Dams produce over 1,03,800 megawatts of renewable electricity and meet 8 to 12% of the nation's power needs. Hydropower is considered clean because it does not contribute to global warming, air pollution, acid rain, or ozone layer depletion. Dams can also be used for debris control. In some instances, dams provide enhanced environmental protection, such as the retention of hazardous material and detrimental sediments. Again, construction of dam has another benefit, that is navigation. Dams and locks provide for a stable system of inland river transportation throughout the heartland of the nation. However, construction of dam has certain problems, certain demerits. The construction of large dams completely changed the relationship of water and land, destroying the existing ecosystem balance. Currently, there are around 40,000 large dams which obstruct the world's rivers, completing changing their circulation system. This is not going to occur without dire environmental impacts. Throughout the past few years, the negative impacts of dams have become so well known that most countries, including India, have stopped building them altogether and now are forced to invest their money into fixing the problems created by existing dams. So, one of the first problems with the dams is the erosion of land. Dams hold back the sediment load normally found in a river flow, depriving the downstream of this. In order to make up for sediments, the downstream water erodes its channels and banks. The lowering of the river bed threatens vegetation and river wildlife. Second, demerits of construction of dam is species extinction. Fisheries become an increasingly important source of food supply. More attention is being paid to the harmful effects of dams on many fish and marine animal population. The vast majority of large dams do not include proper bypass systems for these animals, interfering with their life cycles and sometimes even forcing species to extinction. Another demerits or defects of construction of dam may be spread of disease. Dam reservoirs in tropical areas, due to their slow movement, are literally breeding grounds for mosquitoes, snails and flies, the vectors that carry malaria, dengue, etc. Well, changes to Earth's rotation is also caused by construction of dam. NASA geophysicist Dr. Benjamin Fong Chow found evidence that large dams cause changes to the Earth's rotation because of the shift of water weight from oceans to reservoirs. Because of the numbers of dams which have been built, the Earth's daily rotation has apparently sped up 80 millionths of a second since the 1950s. Charles said it is the first time human activity has been shown to have a measurable effect on the Earth's motion. Well, sedimentation is also another problem of construction of dam. It is the process by which larger sediment in which water entering a reservoir are deposited at its upper end, forming a delta and steadily raising the level of the upper reaches of the reservoir. This causes flooding due to its bank river effects, and in the case of the Sardar Sarovar Dam, this process threatens the utility of the dam. The next problem associated with the construction of dam is siltation. Siltation is the outcome of silt being deposited at the bottom of the reservoir, which inevitably reduces the utility of the dam. In case of SSP, that is Sardar Sarovar project, there is the possibility of premature siltation, which decides the lifespan of a reservoir. Siltation reduces the water storage capacity of the reservoir, undermines its effectiveness for power generation, irrigation, and flood control, and renders its usefulness in the long term. Another problem which is associated with construction of dam is water logging. वाटर लॉगिंग मतलब एक जगह पानी का जमावट होना. Rich soils in the states of Punjab and Haryana have been robbed for their use because of water logging. The Indian Institute of Science estimates that 40% of the command area for Sardar Sarovar Dam will become waterlogged. This area contains black cotton soils which are particularly proof to waterlogging under perennial irrigation due to high water retention capacity. Soils become waterlogged and crop yields fall. The next problem is salinization. Salinization refers to accumulation of salt on soil. The air and semi-arid areas are incapable of handling large amounts of water brought by irrigation. Irrigation water has more saline content and adds more salt to the system, leading to the increase of salinization. Changes in the salt regime can affect the entire ecosystem and disrupt breeding of fishes. Large areas on the river banks are likely to be affected by an increased quantity of salt after dam construction. In total, over 32,000 hectares of land have been submerged by the Sardar Sarovar Dam, 13,000 of which is forest land and 11,000 hectares of agricultural land.